Ashley Buffington, and this is New Mexico Biz Talk. I am sitting down today with Sheyenne from LAND+OBJECT. Hi, Sheyenne. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I am so excited to learn more about your business, more about your brand, and how you got LAND+OBJECT started.
Yeah, it's been about 1.5 years since I properly launched. I've been working on this brand for about 2 years, ever since I moved back from Mongolia. I used to live there for about 5 years over the past 10 years.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a whole whirlwind journey of learning more about myself as an indigenous person through the context of global indigeneity. And that's really what I want to bring to the table with LAND+OBJECT.
That is beautiful.
Thank
and
you.
I'm I love that. You're well, I just lived in Mongolia for 10 years, casual.
Right.
That's really, really amazing.
Thanks.
And I bet living in that kind of setting really did connect you to the earth and gave you a lot of inspiration, right?
Yeah, actually, land is a really big part of Mongolian culture, land and sky, and obviously that really resonates with me as a Diné person. It's Navajo.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to create products that are sustainable and in line with the natural flow of the world, so it honors people, the land, and animals, and I just really think that this indigenous perspective can do a lot for the sustainability movement broadly, but more focused in fashion.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
You know, I'm a big fan of fashion.
Right.
And I am also very picky, but I also like to hike.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like your brand checks all of my boxes, in the terms of I'm looking for these certain things.
Right.
So how did you come up with this idea, this concept of taking camel hair, right?
Yeah.
And creating these beautiful, amazing socks and hats?
Well, I actually was a big fan myself while living in Mongolia. I actually didn't know camels, were a product.
Right.
You could make wool out of them. I had no idea, and I became a really big fan of camel socks and would bring them back to my relatives all the time. So after the pandemic, I had a lot of classes during my time at Harvard focusing on strategy and trying to figure out what is the most effective way to tell this really nebulous story about the land and people and animals that I wanted to tell. And really, I planned to do that in a lot of different vehicles, but the first and most obvious one for me, coming from a place living in Mongolia,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to highlight how there are alternative textiles there that are just as luxurious. They actually have a real nomadic history with these animals. And yeah, that's just how LAND+OBJECT came to be.
That's beautiful. That's
Thank
really,
you.
really amazing. So I would love for you to give our listeners, our viewers, a little bit more of a look into your story,
Awesome.
who you are, and then kind of how it got you to this point.
Yeah, so I grew up in Gallup, New Mexico, and when I was 7 years old, my dad got a job in Indonesia, and
Oh, wow.
I actually moved overseas for the first time all the way to the jungles of Indonesia, where there was probably only 35 other people in my village, I guess.
Wow.
And from there, we moved to Colombia, South America, Zambia, Africa, a little bit of time in Alabama, and
I like that, but random, and then Alabama too.
yeah, it was actually a really, really nice place, and in many ways just as exotic as the other places.
Right, well, because all of them probably gave you a different kind of culture shock, because they were also
Exactly.
different than each other, right?
Yeah, in Alabama, there's huge tailgating culture and football and everything, and I'm not too into sports, but I'm glad I got to experience that.
Right, absolutely. It's an experience, and all those
Yeah.
experiences kind of give you that little bit of what makes you you, and gives you that
Exactly.
inspiration for where it takes you later in life.
Exactly. And after Alabama, we moved to Mongolia, and then I went to college. Actually, I finished high school here in New Mexico at Academy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just that 1 year, I got to have the full academy experience, and then I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And that's where I got introduced to the world of fashion as more so a vehicle of art rather than just purely self-expression. And I think people like Ralph Lauren were really influential to me in that you can create a whole lifestyle and tell a story and have a dream with your clothing. And it's less about it is about how it looks, but it's more about how it makes you feel.
Yes.
Yeah. So I really resonated with all of that. And although I come from a traditional fashion background, I feel very deeply about the sustainability movement. So thought I'd throw my hat in the ring.
I love it. That's perfect. Well, and it's really something that you've created from your roots, who you are as a person. And I feel like it definitely has that luxurious nod to it. I think you've done such a great job with the branding. How did you come up with the idea Land Object, and how did you come up with an idea for your logo and everything? Because I think it's so clean, it's so streamlined. You did a really good job.
Thank you. The name itself took a long time to really refine, and I think the name actually just chose me.
Cool.
It was sort of crowdsourced from a bunch of my friends, and when I got the contact with a local designer, Caroline Clark, she's now in Colorado, but I told her all of the high art inspirations, obviously Ralph Lauren, and then Agnes Martin, and a whole bunch of other female artists that I really look up to. And she took that and really ran with it. And we developed this in only about a month, and I've just been so happy with it.
I love it. And it's already grown.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really cool that you started something, you weren't afraid to start it, because sometimes it's just starting it, right, is the hardest thing. And I think also picking the name, once you have the name, I feel like it gives you that confidence, okay, this is the direction I'm going to be taking this business.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, because even at the beginning I said I started almost 2 years ago with a different name, and Land Object was official about a year ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been a journey, but because I don't come from a traditional fashion background, it can be hard to even think of myself as a fashion designer sometimes. But ultimately, life is what you make it, and I am obsessed with fashion. Anyone who knows me knows that, and it's just been so much fun getting to express myself creatively like this.
Right. Well, I think that you don't have to go to school for a specific thing. Some things are embedded deep within us, right? We have those talents, we have those skills, and you are blessed with this beautiful talent. You have an eye for fashion. I love it. That's so amazing. So what kind of maybe tips, suggestions for someone that's maybe has a dream, you had a dream, they want to start a business themselves, what kind of tips and tricks would you give to them?
Well, I would advise them to expect it to be difficult. It's not going to come easy, especially in the world of fashion. It's very cutthroat. There's a lot of personalities involved, and you just have to be tenacious about it. You really have to want to be involved and have your message out there. So you have to be able to take, even opportunities like this. I'm not super comfortable in front of the camera, but this is so important to me that I'm willing to try and I'm willing to learn and grow. So
Absolutely.
Having that mindset is everything, no matter what you do.
Oh, I love that. Well, and it's putting yourself outside of your comfort zone that sometimes creates that greatest change for ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? And it can help you push yourself into a new direction that you were wait, maybe I am that person, right? Maybe that is something that I enjoy and do. And you do have such a beautiful message, so I appreciate you putting yourself out there and sharing your message. So that's amazing. So what's going to be next? So where do you see Land Object within maybe the next year, seeing this growth from this amazing company?
I've learned so much along the way, in terms of manufacturing and design, and even more about sustainability. I'm always a student. There's never a real end to sustainability. So I think in the future, I'm going to be trying to bring more production domestically and try to produce things myself by hand. So
wow.
I've actually learned weaving recently.
Which I've been watching on the Instagram.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's in and of itself something that I never thought that I would be able to pick up because it's just so intimidating when you look at it. But as a Navajo woman, it was really important for me to try to reclaim that for my family. So I was lucky enough to learn under a really, really talented weaver. Her name is Bobby Ornelas. And through that, I've gotten a lot of confidence, and I'm just trying to figure out what exactly the next product is going to be. But for your listeners, I'll let them know. I think it's going to be hat bands.
Oh, cool.
So hand-woven hat bands with Navajo churro wool.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm excited. You know I'm a fan of hats.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
be first in
exactly.
line.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, you were mentioning to me before we started production, like where these are produced and how they're put together.
Yeah, so when I lived in Mongolia, my background is all in fashion and in the marketing side of it mostly. So when I lived in Mongolia, I worked at a huge conglomerate. I don't exactly know what to call it, but yeah, there's like 70 different brands that I managed. And I got a lot of contacts in the fashion industry. So one of those contacts was a women-led factory in northern Mongolia that I just absolutely fell in love with because they are all about animal welfare, and they have been doing this for the longest time, like in the whole country.
Right, it's like what they do.
Yeah, it's their oldest factory in the country. So I visited them in person. I got to see the working conditions and was just floored by like the level of attention that they were paying to things like childcare and time off after you have a baby, you know, because most of their workforce is women. I thought that was just logical, and I was just like refreshed by things like that. And when the pandemic hit, I knew that just like a lot of other factories, they would probably be in the same position where they would have a whole bunch of contracts that then got canceled because of the pandemic. And that really tore me up inside, and I really wanted to figure out how to just kill two birds with one stone. I know that camel socks and yak wool beanies are the best way to make socks and beanies. And this factory needed more suppliers and people to tell their story here in America. So I collaborated with this factory and a designer out of New York City to design this collection and a full clothing line, but of course that's incredibly difficult to get funded, so we're working our way towards that.
Very cool. Well, that's so exciting. I want to see these ones specifically.
Yeah, go for it.
They're like so soft, and what I love about them is when you hike in them, they really like whisk away the sweat.
Yeah.
Right? And your feet feel so comfortable. Like they don't rub, and they're great socks. I own like, how many pairs?
Like 6 pairs.
I own a lot of pairs. I love them so, so much. And so if someone was wanting to purchase Land Object, where can they find more information? Because you blog and stuff too, which I think is really, really cool on your website.
Yeah, we have a website, landobject.com, and they're all available online. The hat is exclusive to our website, but I've partnered with a lot of local boutiques in the Southwest to sell the socks. So we're at Power Plant in Albuquerque, Luna and Luz in Albuquerque, Standard and Strange in Santa Fe, Folklore in Santa Fe, and Sign of the Pampered Maiden.
That's awesome. Well, I love that you can like go and get them. I'm like someone that I really do love like shopping in person, and a great opportunity for them to go and like feel the, you know, softness of the fabric and the great quality of it. And because you say that it's stronger than typical wool, but then it's...
So it's moisture wicking in a way that's, like you mentioned, a little bit better than traditional like sheep's wool.
Right.
And they're a lot warmer, more insulating. So if you're warm, they're going to keep you warm. If you're cold, you know, it's going to really gently warm you up and not be too hot and stuffy. And they're reinforced with 30% nylon just for durability so that they last as long as you love them.
Oh, I love that. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, what you're doing with Land Object. I think that it's absolutely inspirational that you took an idea and you have this passion. You're such a natural fashionista. Sorry, it just is what it is. And even if you're like, well, I don't know about that myself, I definitely see that in yourself. So just keep killing it. That's amazing.
I really appreciate that. This was so great. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's New Mexico Biz Talk, and we hope you have an awesome night.